Hi, welcome to another edition of the MSDW Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com, and joining me this week is Dan Morneau, assistant editor. This week, we'll be looking at an update to Envision 2017 plans, which will be radically different from 2016, plus a call to NAV partners to start exploring Dynamics 365, and what to expect from Dynamics GP 2016 R2, which is due out shortly, and more. So Dan, let's begin.
Great. First off, Envision 2017 will shed Expo Hall, focus on dialogue and global trends, and the role of Microsoft technology. This was by you, Jason.
Yeah, so I talked with some partners because they had received updates from Microsoft in the past week or so, kind of explaining finally what the real approach is going to be with Envision 2017. I mean, I guess the headline the partners took away from it was they're doing away with the Expo Hall. They're really changing the whole format of the event to make it really more like an executive summit or almost like an executive retreat maybe, with a lot of just interpersonal events and workshops and seminars. And the way partners will be involved, Microsoft's Gabriela Schuster told partners, was that they'll be having partner sort of solution experience presentations during the event. So partners can now, rather than what they call pay to play, which is pretty much every event that Microsoft has ever done, it's now going to be that you can submit a proposal of a presentation that you want to give, and Microsoft will review it, I think, and select the best ones that show Microsoft technology in the best light, show the best customer solutions, and hopefully also show the partners in the best light. And that's really the approach. I don't think you pay to do it anymore, but the other thing is sort of new incentives. So there's that. There's no Expo Hall. They're going to do based on kind of merit and the quality of the stories partners can bring to the event. But then they're also trying to incentivize partners to recruit as many of their customers as they can to come to the event. So they have this new list of incentives. If you get up to 10 customers going, you can give them a certain discount. If you get up to 20 customers going, if you get up to 50, and there's all these tiers. In the top tier, you get the best hotels and I guess the best seating at events and, a few other things. I don't know how enticing any of that is. But yeah, so bigger partners who attract more of their clients to the event will get a few perks. I don't think it was anything that, upon reading it, I didn't think any of them were all that great. But certainly Microsoft does want to incentivize partners to come and to bring their customers. It's actually a good question. I don't know if they actually want the partners to be there. I know they want the customers to be there, but if you don't have, I don't know what involvement a partner will have if they're not presenting. So let's put it that way. Presumably, if you're going to bring your clients, you're going to want to be there, though. You're not just going to send them blindly to an event with a bunch of other partners at it. That's just my thinking.
Yeah, I just can't imagine a partner-free event. Doing away with the booth, that's a bold move, but doing away with partners and making them feel like they have no place there, I just can't envision Microsoft doing that.
Yeah, I think having them present and the ability to show off what they do is probably nice. ISVs I talk to who are, very Dynamics-centric, a lot of them anyway, or Dynamics is one of their primary markets, you might say, in addition to others. But some of them, they were not heartbroken or blown away by this announcement. Some of them were surprised. Some of them, basically said candidly that they had already written off or discounted Envision as an option for them after what they saw last year. One of them, I quoted in the article, said, "Envision is no longer interesting to me. I won't have any business there unless they decide to bring back convergence." Another said, "I think no Expo might not be a bad thing. While we had some leads last year, there were few, and I think they just see the landscape changing for in-person events right now as it relates to attracting Dynamics customers as leads."
Have you ever done trade shows where you were in the booth?
I have, but it's been a while.
Okay. Yep, me too, and they were some of my least favorite days ever.
Yeah, I
The box lunch, the ham and cheese sandwich with mayo. Yeah,
yeah,
yuck.
the standing and the saying the same thing over and over. If you're not the marketing manager, director who's really sort of made this a strategic goal, the people, the staff who have to go to these events, I'm sure they would much rather spend their time elsewhere if it's going to be a quiet event.
Yeah, certainly.
So that was Envision. It's happening, I should say, February 28th to March 2nd in LA. And even that, it's not at a conference hall the way it has been in the past. It's in sort of this, entertainment complex, I assume can be converted to conversations. They expect 5,000 people to be there.
Good crowd.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have Marco Perisic to NAV partners. Start exploring the possibilities of Microsoft Dynamics 365. This is a guest column by Guus Krabbenborg, partner in Partner Masterclass and Quattro Business Solutions.
Yeah, so this was an adapted piece that just came in from Guus. He had interviewed Marco and several other people. He has a new report that this is from. It's a report that he's selling through Partner Masterclass, and I guess QBS Group is maybe the better term for it. But yeah, he talked to Marco Perisic at the Directions EMEA event last month. And I've actually, since this went up, I feel like maybe I buried the lead a little bit. So, the headline was start exploring the possibilities of Microsoft Dynamics 365, ... because Dynamics 365 will be reaching parity with NAV within the next 6 to 12 months. I think that's one of the very big reveals in this interview, which is certainly important. I had heard this in different places that they are going for parity. It's very interesting to hear them talk about it very openly here. So, NAV 365 for financials, they are going to get closer and closer together.
Okay, so folks' predictions were correct.
Yes, they were. I think the other thing I maybe got out of this was that I think that also means anyone who's on the NAV managed service, which I believe is about 20 partners, that will be headed toward 365 also, again, as that parity comes closer and closer.
Okay, next up we had Microsoft confirms Dynamics GP 2016 R2 ships December 1st. Roadmap extends to 2018. This is by you, Jason.
Yeah, just an official statement from Microsoft and something that they had advised people on at the UG Summit. And I actually started comparing screenshots of what they have now versus what they had then and what they had at the Fargo event in September, the Reimagine event. And that GP, and Bob McAdam actually mentioned this on an earlier podcast, GP 2018 is the name of the release that will come out in late 2017, about a year from now. We've got the 2016 R2 coming out on December 1st. And Microsoft's been busy with Feature of the Day. It's sort of classic Feature of the Day blog series where they highlight different features that are new. In this coming release, I assume they'll be doing something similar in the one for next year. I think what was interesting about their statements in the blog post about the GP 2018 release is that it's going to be very driven by what the existing customers want. So that's really where GP is focused, is on enhancing what's there, trying to make existing customers happy, keep them on the product. And I think that seems to be the approach. By listening to their current users, they still want to sell the product. So, trying to enhance it through their wishes.
Sure. Next up, we have Dynamics User Group, bolsters leadership, plans new offerings.
Dynamics User Group, which is not the same as AXOG or GPUG. It's a totally separate online community under dynamicsuser.net is their web address. Started and founded by Erik Ernst, Dynamics NAV MVP, 21 years ago, actually. That site and that online community, which is very heavily trafficked forums, mostly they also have blog posts and some other stuff. It's going to a new era for itself. There was an announcement this week that Erik Ernst is adding 2 other sort of co-leaders to the site, John Stipula and Jake Roeder, who also happen to be co-workers at the firm Dynamic Consulting. So what they're doing is they're taking over some of the responsibilities with Erik, who continues on in a leadership role, and they're going to be moving the site into a US-based nonprofit entity, I guess in the coming months. I don't think it's completed yet. And then they're going to try to sort of, revitalize or extend on what the site already does. It's already a heavily trafficked forum, and I think they want to kind of do things to bring that community, make that community a more active one. An interesting sort of change in one of the real stalwarts of the Dynamics community at large, one of the oldest and most well-known online presences out there.
Indeed. I think Erik Ernst launched it in 95 as a Navision online user group, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
Yeah, and they were really the only way at the time. So we've got a 21st birthday this year. But really, if you imagine, folks remember back in 1995, online communities were, folks called them, I think, chat lines or chat rooms at the time.
Chat rooms, yeah.
Yeah, so between all the
listservs,
nonsense chat rooms out there, there was this first self-organized Dynamics community, it appears.
Yeah, he's really done a great job over the years to foster those forums and keep the activity lively on the site. But I think it's a good move for him to try to spread around the responsibilities a little bit, bring in, some new voices. It could be interesting. So we'll see how it goes. It was really just the announcement was made this week, and I talked to John Stipula for the piece we did about some of the arrangements, and that's what's in the piece.
Great. Next, we had 3 very practical guest columns, and we'll run through these one by one. First up was What's New in Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Operations Part 2, Warehousing and Mobile. This was by Rahul Mohta, He's an independent advisor with Real Dynamics. And here you can expect advanced warehousing capabilities and mobile apps for retail point of sale, production, and warehousing. It's a very dense read, but settle in. I think you'll be pleased. And I think I can say with some authority, where I've covered supply chain over the years, spoken at Warehouse Education Research Council and Material Handling Institute events. This is truly advanced functionality. This is the type of stuff that generally you go to an ISV for. For example, the advanced warehousing in retailer. Well, why would a retailer need that? Well, you got the functionalities of like point of sale inventory lookup, showing availability across stores and warehouses. So that is never a lost sale if you're never out of inventory. So this is not warehousing light. It's not just Microsoft fulfilling an obligation. This is truly advanced warehousing, and I think this article's worth a read. Once again, it's a tad dense. Brew a cup of Java. Next up, we had What's New in Microsoft Dynamics CRM Portals by Nick Hayduk, owner of Engineered Code Consulting.
Yeah, so Nick is an expert in, Dynamics CRM, but also the ADX Studio product, which is now Dynamics CRM Portals, or just Portals, maybe Dynamics 365 Portals. And he gives us a nice preview of what's next for that offering. There's a preview that's available now, and he just runs through a range of updates and enhancements that are going to be in that major release. It's going to be the second one, I believe the second release since Microsoft acquired the solution. And it's worth a read. I'm not going to try to explain them all, but some of the areas that he highlights include accessibility for people with disabilities, faceted search, a new portal for partner relationship management, and a range of other things. So dashboarding, knowledge management enhancements, language enhancements. He really goes through quite a range of those. And I think it's a sign that that product, which Microsoft acquired not too long ago, is really continuing to push ahead nicely. And I think it'll continue to be a competitive area where Microsoft continues to try to compete. I know Salesforce has their own portal offering, and there are other ones out there in the market. So it'll be interesting to watch this one continue to evolve.
Yeah, the partner relationship management is the newest of portals. They've also got a whole bunch of plans for it. This one seems to be generating particular excitement. What we can expect next is that Microsoft will work in both field service and project service applications for CRM. And they didn't give a timeline here, but you can expect those soon. So this one will be, I think, pretty compelling.
The other thing that jumped out at me was, with enhancements to knowledge management, this also ties back to something we've talked about on a past podcast, which was with Parature sort of receding into the background a little bit. Portals becomes even more important for exposing knowledge management and articles, knowledge-based content to users. So there's that customer service side where it's going to play a key role in Microsoft's story.
Next up, we had Using Calendars in Microsoft Dynamics AX for Purchasing, this by Evert Bos, solution architect at Sikich. And, using calendars in AX, how hard is this? Well, it turns out that there is some unexpected behavior and quirks that exist in Dynamics AX with calendars and purchase orders, the result of which is that you can be attempting to deliver to a closed place on Saturday or attempting to ship on a Sunday when you're closed, among other things. So miscalculating delivery dates on purchases, of course, always important, particularly in make-to-order and just-in-time manufacturing and distribution. So Evert Bos describes what brings these on and how to get around them. Not terribly complicated. Really what you're attempting to do, or what you're looking for, is there are several types of calendars you can create under, say, master planning parameters, or in the coverage group, or in the warehouse group, or in the vendor group, and they can use quite different delivery dates. So this requires some hands-on, some finessing, and some upfront choosing. I make it sound simple, but it's a good read and save you a lot of trouble.
Everett's really good at discovering capabilities that almost maybe no one even knew they had and bringing them out.
Yeah.
Clarifying how they really work.
Yeah, making you excited about them and then telling you where they go wrong and what to do about it. So always a complete surprise. So that was us this week, I believe. And let's move on. Jason, any idea what stories you have coming up next week?
A couple things I would highlight. We have an interesting new profile of a NAV MVP. I will also likely have an interesting article on some of the advantages and then also some of the risks or drawbacks, you might say, of planning your integrations purely with Power Apps and Common Data Model and Azure Logic Apps. It's a perspective from an ISV, so certainly something to keep in mind, but that's going to be coming out next week. And then also I want to highlight a webcast we have next week on Dynamics 365 and what it means for high-tech manufacturing. So I'll be looking at capabilities like revenue recognition and complex supply chain challenges. That is an event with some of the experts from Armanino, and that is Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time.
Great. And for me, I've mentioned this one before, but it's gelled. Digital Transformations from Panorama Consulting, which purports to answer, will an ERP implementation do the job? Is that all the digital transformation you'll need? Well, no. And we kind of know that, but we'll
You spoiled it. Now no one has to read it.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
The answer is no.
The answer is no. But essentially, Erik explores the case of, well, does everybody need it? And no, not everybody does. We'll explore that idea. And Erik will also weigh in on where Microsoft stands in the digital transformation space. You think this is a brand new term, but Capgemini was using it 5 years ago at least. So with all this enthusiasm with which it speaks it, you'd think Microsoft coined the term. Guess again. So that's going to be a fascinating piece. And it also discusses briefly what those industries are that are especially ripe for digital transformation. And manufacturing is one, retail is another, publishing is another. Erik had some opinions of what the Trump presidency will mean for your digital transformation. And at first you think that's just filler, but then you start to read it and you say, that does make sense. If this trade thing goes down, what new international or multi-currency capabilities will I need, that type of thing. So that should be an interesting piece. Also, overseas commerce. We'll have a piece on Brexit authored by Dynamics partner Redspire in the UK, answering what are the practicalities of Brexit to UK manufacturers? What are the practicalities to US manufacturers? We do not, as we have found, live in a bubble. So that I'm looking forward to that piece. I can't imagine what Redspire will offer us. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so am I. Well, let's wrap up. This has been another episode of the MSDW Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to be on the podcast, maybe you're an ISV with a product release, a consultant with a case study, or a VAR with a unique slant on this product space, drop us a line. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor. You can reach me, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com.
And I'm Dan Morneau, assistant editor. I'm at M as in Matthew, AURN as in Nickel, O at msdynamicsworld.com.
Until next time, we're MS Dynamics World signing off.